Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. This is Wind Waker Unflooded, a 3D modeling fan art project where we are bringing to life the land of Hyrule in the art style of The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. Y'all know how this goes, but I guess you know how it is. I just gotta tell y'all, in case anyone is new to the channel, if you've played Wind Waker before, you know that all the islands of the Great Sea are really the mountaintops of Hyrule. But we never get to explore Hyrule in the game. We only see a small portion of it near the castle. And I've always wanted to know, what would all of Hyrule look like in the art style of the Wind Waker? So this is that project. This is Wind Waker Unflooded. I'm so excited about this project. It's been so much fun to just keep working on it and have y'all support, have the channel grow. And like I've said before, like, it's not about views. But it does make a difference to see y'all's comments and to see, and I'm not just saying that for engagement, but like legitimately, like as an artist, to see what y'all have to say about the world and how excited y'all are about the project, but even just to see y'all's ideas. And I want y'all to know that that makes a really big difference for the project and that I take all of your ideas into consideration. So I'll just go ahead and say that. Feel free to comment down below any ideas, notes, feedback you have as you're watching the video, as you go, you know what, Joe, I wouldn't have done it this way. I would do it more this way. Or, just other ideas you have for locations that you want to see. Comment down below any of those and your own vision for those, or just even other things. I've asked this in previous videos, but feel free to comment even things that aren't like about locations you want to see or notes, but even like things between that, right? How do you think transportation should work? What do you think should be in between locations? Just different ideas you have. How should enemy camps be set up? I want you to really be thinking about this world, and something I love about this project is that balance of, this is a cartoonish world. We're not constrained. We have creative freedom. We can do anything in this project based on our own creativity. And I really feel empowered by that. That like this is a fantasy world, it's a cartoon world, and anything that feels right is possible. But also, I really believe that it's a world that we can take seriously, right? And based on the lore of the franchise, on the timeline, based on other entries in the series, on all these things that, based on the story of the Wind Waker as it's presented in the game, we can take the world seriously, think through things logistically, while also having creative freedom at the same time. And I think that's so cool about what the original game does, right? Is balancing both of those truths. And that's really what I want to do in my project. I want you to feel like you can take this world seriously, but also know that like at any point, if that becomes a roadblock, we can jump over that roadblock and say like, if logistics become, we'll think logistically until that becomes a limitation. But we can also use limitations. I'm just rambling. This is the power of creativity, and I want all of y'all to know that there is freedom in this project, and that if you want to comment down below your suggestions, there's an incredible amount of freedom to what this project can be, and I want y'all to know that as you're engaging with this project and offering your own ideas. I'm never gonna say like I don't know. I may like push back on some ideas, but I'm never gonna say like, oh, that's totally out of the question. I'm going to hear you out at first, and then maybe after I've heard you out, then maybe I'll say, maybe that's not quite the direction I want to go in. But I will hear you out. So I want y'all to know that. But yeah, anyway, as you can tell from the title of the video and the time-lapse so far, we are working on the Eastern Palace today from A Link to the Past. This was a really fun location to model because it's a location that we've never really seen in 3D. Maybe it's in A Link Between Worlds. I need to replay that. But at the very least, like I was drawing from that original A Link to the Past sprite work and really trying to make something reminiscent of that, but also totally fitting in within the art style of the Wind Waker. And I'm really proud of how it turned out. And it's been a very simple build so far. So I don't know, like it's not like too crazy. Like this is just a start. This video is just the start of the Eastern Palace. But it's a good start, and for me, it's really exciting just to see, like, even just, like, this kind of courtyard. I don't even know what to call it. This kind of entrance courtyard, I guess, that feels so iconic from the original Link to the Past. because it's your first dungeon, right? You're going up those steps, and you're like, I don't really know what I'm in for. This may be something harder than anything I've done so far. And I love that. I love that feeling, and I think that what I've been able to create here, to me, it really reminds me of the opening to A Link to the Past. And I love the opening of that game. It's so dramatic, starting in Hyrule Castle, and it carries you with a lot of momentum into this dungeon. As you're meeting Sahasrara, right, and getting advice from him, the elder, and, learning about the world and, figuring out what you can do to help. It's a really exciting opening, and the Eastern Palace is a big part of that opening. So I don't know, it's exciting to bring locations from 2D into 3D as well. So just inherently, it's not just in a new art style, but it's literally in a new medium. And that's really exciting. But anyway, I could keep rambling about that, but I think it's time for now. I think it's time for a short message. So I will see all of you after the break. If you want to be able to support me as a creator, there's several ways that you can do that. Become a member on Patreon. It gives you access to exclusive bonus features and early access content in all of my filmmaking projects. Stuff like early access to scripts that I'm writing, storyboards, previs, rough cuts, and music that I compose. I'm a composer, and any music that you've heard in the background of this video was my music. So go to Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you listen to music and type in Joe Kendrick. That's JoeKendrick. Look up Joe Kendrick on Spotify. And we're back. Welcome. How are y'all doing? Hope y'all doing well. We're still working on the Eastern Palace. What do you know? It's I guess I'll go ahead and just let you know, because I don't always give you a whole lot of insight into the process, but in case you don't recognize the textures, a lot of the textures I'm using, they're pulled from a couple of different sources. But the main ones for this area are, of course, from the stairs are from Hyrule Castle. And a lot of the white kind of brick is from Hyrule Castle, and the tiled floor is from the Wind Temple from the Wind Waker. So just to let y'all know, and the if you see that kind of rock texture that you may see kind of next to the stairs, that is from the desert area that we see that's underneath Ganon's tower in the final boss fight of the game. And it's I've always thought that model was interesting, and we kind of see it here and there in the background of this video every now and then, because that's where I'm putting the Eastern Palace. I'm putting it kind of in the backdrop of that mountainous desert that we see in the the ending boss fight of the Wind Waker. I know a lot of people really want that to be Gerudo Desert, but as it's been placed in this map, I don't think that's Gerudo Desert. I think that's a small desert leading up to Death Mountain on the east side of the map. That's just the way that things line up, and I think it makes sense, and that's according to the original map that I'm using for reference for this project. The original map was created by Jacob Zechariah. I always include a link down below to that original reference map, because I always feel like it's worth shouting out how much of an effect that reference map has on this project. And it's I'm making a lot of decisions creatively, and I do feel like those are really important for the project, my own input. But for the general layout, I am really relying on that map. And I'm not sure that I would have been able to do this project if there wasn't already such clear reference for me that someone else had created, that, at my weakest times, I can lean on that map for reference, and in my strongest times, I can add to it. And it's been so helpful just to have that on hand. And I always want to voice that. But that is something that informs decisions. And there's some things that's maybe if I was making this my own, from the beginning, I could have spun the, literally rotated Hyrule Castle so that Ganon's tower was on the border of the Gerudo Desert. But just as it is, I like that there's a lot of separation between the desert and the castle, and that we have Hyrule Field, going over the river, and then there's a rocky border going to Gerudo Desert, and that's the way it's laid out. Because in Wind Waker, it was pretty much there's the lake next to Hyrule Castle, and then there's just this one little mountain in between it and Ganon's tower. So I like the idea that Ganon's tower is kind of in its own little micro climate there, its own kind of little valley surrounded by mountains that are closer to Death Mountain, in between it and Hyrule Field. And to me, that just makes more sense. And I like that design decision. I know not everyone's a fan of that, and I know especially because in the ending cutscene, Ganon's talking about his home in the desert, and he's constantly referencing that in his final monologue of the game as he's standing atop his tower that is in a desert. And so to think that that desert is not Gerudo Desert, it is perhaps a weird decision for y'all, but it's never confirmed to be Gerudo Desert in the game. And to me, just the evidence that we have based on the placement of the Tower of the Gods, and I don't know, it's like there's room either way, I guess, to spin it, but it's just something that to me the way that makes the most sense is the way that it's laid out in the original reference map that I'm using, even though there are clues otherwise where it's like maybe the developers wanted that to be Gerudo Desert, but at the end of the day, it's I think it also makes sense that Ganon's Tower from Ocarina of Time was rebuilt in the center of Hyrule. Who's to say that this Ganon's Tower in Wind Waker that is also built right next to Hyrule Castle, maybe that's an intentional way of moving his base back towards the center of Hyrule. He just couldn't put it right on the water of Hyrule Castle for whatever reason, maybe because it was frozen in time. So there's ways to logic it out either way, and I don't know, that's something that even after I finish this project and I'm really happy with the design decisions and you approach me, I could still go either way about what is the intention of that area in the original game. I don't know, as I've been talking about it, I've been thinking about it either way, and it's not really a huge deal for me either way. But I do like its placement for this map, and I'm standing by it, so I don't know. That's where I'm landing on it. I know there's a lot of other things in this map that are like that, that I know that causes some confusion for y'all, and I want y'all to keep bringing those things up because there's some things that I don't realize are confusing, and some people have said that Windfall Island feels too far apart from Dragon Roost, even though that's the placement based on the sea chart, but it's if I want that to be Kakariko and Dragon Roost to be Death Mountain, then they feel too far apart. But also based on the original game, I think it's meant to be those two locations. It's just within the design of the Wind Waker, those locations have been stretched further apart. And that's just what we're working with. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap up the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Become a member on Patreon. I've given you the spiel. Listen to my music on Spotify. Y'all know the drill, so I'm not gonna repeat myself. But do listen to my music on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you listen to music. Look up Joe Kendrick. That's JoeKendrick. And becoming a Patreon member gives you exclusive bonus features that I know y'all just might be into. But anyway, I've rambled for long enough. Thank you so much for watching. I'll let y'all go.